Alright guys, as always a big thank you for checking out today's video. So today I'm taking a look at the new M305 MXR Tremolo pedal. So at the time of filming this is a brand new pedal. So unlike the last pedal that I demoed, which was the FOD drive, the first thing I did when I got the pedal this time was read the instructions. And having done this, looking at the front plate of the pedal, there's a few controls we would expect to see on tremolo units. However, there's also a lot of hidden extras going on in this pedal. So I'm going to take us through the controls, I'll take us through the standard kind of features, and then we'll check out the hidden extras a bit later on in the video. So looking at the front of the pedal now, we can see we've got three controls here. So we've got speed, gain and depth. And these are all controls we would expect to see on a tremolo unit, and I think they're probably all fairly self-explanatory. Speed is the overall speed of the tremolo. Gain is the output of the pedal. I do know that on this pedal actually unity gain is just above 12, it's somewhere in between 12 and 1, so I'll be keeping it there for the majority of this demo. And then depth is the depth of the tremolo, so the depth of the sine wave or the oscillations that we're using, so basically how quiet the quiet bits are. Now we can also see we've got 6 voicings on here, and we can cycle through these by pressing the gain dial in. We can see the LED changing to tell us which one we're on. So we'll get plugged in and we'll check out the different voicings and the controls on the front first. So for tones today, I've got my Telecaster into the Trem, into the Audient Sono, again using the Mesa Boogie 4x10 cab by art, that's with the 57 and the 121 mic sims on there. And exactly the same rig as the FOD drive. I figured if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I'll clean tone without the pedal. If I engage the pedal, that's going to put us on the first voicing, which is the MXR. So this is designed to sound like the M159 Tremolo pedal. It's a nice kind of standard trem sound there. I actually have the speed just below 12, so I'll bring that back up to 12. Try with the speed on about a quarter now. So it's a nice kind of subtle trem at that setting, and then if I go the other way, I ramp the speed up. So at more kind of pronounced tremolo settings, I tend to kind of play less and let the tremolo do its thing more, so I probably wouldn't finger pick or arpeggiate chords, I just kind of strum them and let them ring out. So I'm going to bring the speed back up to 12 now, and I'm going to back the depth down a little bit. So depth on about a quarter. So again, it's a nice subtle effect at that level, and then if I just take it to 3/4 again now. I really like that setting, that's just a really nice, again, kind of a subtle tremolo vibe. So moving on now, if I want to cycle to the next voicing, I press the gain dial in, and the LED will change to red, and now we know that we are looking at the bias setting. So the bias is a vintage bias waveform, so it's designed to sound or to emulate the compression we would get from like a gunned tube amp. So it's a really kind of warm sound, this one. And this was actually I know it's not the intended usage for this pedal, but this is where I realised this pedal sounds really great as a clean boost. So if I back everything down, so speed and depth quite low, I'm just going to bypass the pedal. If I kick the pedal on, and I'm just going to push the gain a little bit. It just makes a really nice kind of warmth to it, I guess that you would expect from tube compression. So I don't know if it's the intended feature there, but it's a really nice one nonetheless. So I'm going to bring the dials back up now, and we'll use it as a tremolo pedal again. So just hear everything on 12. We've got it's a really warm kind of sound. This again is one of my favourite settings on this pedal, and my favourite voicings rather. So I'm just going to bring the speed down a little bit. I'm not going to change the speed and depth on every setting because they do the same thing on each one pretty much, but I'm just going to have a little bit of a play around on this one. Cool. So if we go on to the next setting now, again I'm going to press the gain in, and it's going to take us onto revo now. So this is a reverse optical waveform. What we get here is a more pronounced sine wave, so the peaks and troughs are a little bit more exaggerated. So at a lower setting we get a little bit more kind of a prominent tremolo effect. So I'll just put everything on 12 again. also meant to mention I'm going to play a lot of similar kind of ideas. When I'm demoing something, I try not to kind of vary the playing too much if it's kind of running through a set of functions like this, because I won't want one voicing to sound like it's got less bass, for example, just because I'm playing on a different area of the neck or a different kind of playing style. So I'll try not to keep things too monotonous, but that's the reason for all the E minors and Ds and Cs we've got. So that was our reverse optical waveform. So I'm just going to push the depth up a little bit on this one now. In fact, I'm going to increase the speed and the depth on this one. So this kind of setting actually reminds me of a lot of the 80s kind of synth pop, that kind of era with the arpeggiated chords. Almost sounds like it's got a bit of a slapback on it as well if you do single note lines. So that's our Revo setting. Now I'm going to take us back to 12 and click in the gain switch again. So that puts us on Opto now. So this is the optical waveform. So this is designed to sound like a vintage amp tremolo, so I guess something like a Tweed Vibrolux or an AC30 or something like that. Again, it's another nice kind of subtle warm tremolo. Push the depth up a little bit. So I guess if you're a fan of amp trem, that's possibly one of the settings for you. So next up we've got square. So this changes us from a sine wave to like a binary wave now, so we get a much more kind of choppy sound. I think probably one of the most famous examples of this is the Green Day track, It's Not American Idiot, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. So if I push the depth all the way up now and just strum a chord, I can't remember what the exact chords are for that song, is it? To just decrease the speed a little bit, something like that. And again, it's a much more kind of prominent effect there, and I think for those kind of parts it sounds really cool. It's a much more modern kind of take on a tremolo, I guess. So it was on this setting that I also noticed how responsive the pedal is to playing dynamics, and also like the EQ parameters that those playing dynamics introduce. So if I play a palm muted power chord, it's almost like we've got a kind of lo-fi delay sound, whereas if I fingerpick it, or arpeggiate it, sorry, like on that top note, you can really kind of pop things out, and it's really kind of responsive to those type of playing. I thought it was a really cool feature. I really enjoyed that kind of aspect. So moving on again now, if we have a look at the harmonic, so this is the vintage harmonic tremolo, and this is the setting I had at the start of the video. Basically what we've got here is tremolo with some added modulation. It's a really nice kind of subtle modulation we've got there. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of using chorus pedals standalone. That's just personal preference, but I do really enjoy other pedals that have them as like a side chained effect. So like either reverb or delay, or in this case tremolo. They often end up some of my favourite settings on those pedals, as was the case with this one. This is one of my favourite settings again. So I'm going to back the speed down a little bit, and I'm going to increase the depth, because when I'm using modulation, I prefer to have like a slower rate and a higher depth. So it's almost got kind of like a uni-vibe vibe to it, I guess, on that setting. Cool, I really like that setting again. That's why I used it in the intro video. That's probably one of my favourite settings on there. Just remind us again what 12 sounds like. So I want to talk a little bit about the hidden features on here now. And a lot of these are accessed via the CTR out that we've got at the bottom left. So there's a few options here. We can connect a tap tempo, like the MXR tap tempo button. For me, that's probably how I would use it, because I tend to, I guess, use the more subtle kind of tremolos. But for me, it's always something I look for in a tremolo pedal, is to have either the tap tempo or an option to add one. Because I think, say for example, if you're playing something like the Green Day thing with the square tremolo, like I mentioned before. Like the timing is everything on that. That is what's making that song, is the speed of the trem. But again, even on more subtle kind of things, if you're playing something and the tremolo's fighting you tempo wise, all it takes is for the tiniest movement of a dial and it's going to adjust that speed. So the ability to dial it back in with the foot switch is kind of invaluable there, I think. Another option we've got, we can take it to a stereo out. So we'd need a TRS splitter cable for this, but that means we can go to 2 output sources, achieve like a really wide kind of tremolo sound. So we can also connect an expression pedal to this one, and we would do that via a TRS cable. And what this means is we can move between 2 different tremolo settings on the same voicing. So we pick the voicing we want, and then we would take the pedal all the way forward and set the speed, depth and gain how we would like them, and then take it all the way backwards, do the same there. And this means that we can then move between the 2 different settings on the fly. I think the way I would probably use that would be to emulate a Leslie kind of thing. So I'd probably use the vintage harmonic setting for that. So we've got the extra modulation, and then have a slower speed and a higher speed that you can move between the 2. Again, to emulate that rotary cabinet. That's just how I'd use it, but I think that's a really cool feature. Which moves us on to the next mode, which is a slightly more hidden mode again now. This is the envelope mode. So the way we would access this is via holding the gain switch for 3 seconds. And we will see blue LED flash. So that tells us that we're in envelope mode now. And again, we can still cycle through the 6 different voicings. So for now, I'm going to keep it on the MXR voicing. And what we can do here is basically this, the speed and rate of the tremolo in this instance is dictated by how hard we actually play. So the way we would set this, I'm going to dial the speed and the depth to 0. And I'm going to hold, so this is setting our minimum speed and depth. And now I'm going to hold the gain down, and I'm going to increase the speed as I do that. And we'll see the green LED start to flash. There we go. That's now telling us our maximum speed. So I'm going to keep that about halfway for that one. Now I'm going to press in the gain and spin the depth, and now we'll see the red LEDs stack to tell us how deep the tremolo is going to go, at its highest that is. So I'll set everything back to 0 again now. So what we'll hear now, if I play really lightly, so we get a really kind of subtle again tremolo. Something that I guess one way to really show this is if I hit a chord and then just let it fade out. We can hear the rate and the depth of the tremolo decrease there. So again, I'm just going to play around now. I'm going to kind of move the dynamics up and down a little bit. So that's a really cool feature. Almost similar again to I guess like a rotary Leslie kind of thing that we can achieve via, because I think a lot of the time Leslies sound best when the change speed is not just set on one setting, we go from kind of the slow to the fast. So there's a really cool feature on there, again, that's not immediately obvious. And it took a little bit of getting used to, but I think once you kind of figured out a part that matches that, it can be really effective, particularly if you're doing this live or something, and kind of have that ability to change the tremolo on the fly via what you play is a really cool option there. So the last hidden feature I want to talk about on this pedal is the ability to toggle between true and buffered bypass mode, so basically when the pedal's off. And the way we would do this is we turn all the dials down to 0 and we push and hold the gain for 5 seconds. And we'll see at the minute it's in true bypass, which is the default setting. Once everything changes to red, like that, now in buffered bypass mode, if you want to toggle back to true bypass mode, just repeat the process and we'll see everything flashes green. There we go, we're back in true bypass mode. So that was the new M305 Tremolo pedal by MXR. If you did enjoy the video, please do click like and subscribe, and if you've got any questions about the pedal or anything else, let me know in the comment section. As always, a big thank you for watching, take care, and I will see you very soon in the next video.